Venice, 1924. The ancient city of Canals is in a frenzy. The bells of St. Mark's Basilica, usually reserved for popes and doges, are ringing out in celebration. But they're not ringing for a European royal, they are ringing for him, Chief White Elk of the Iroquois nation. A powerful prince from a distant land come to visit the heart of Europe. He was greeted with military honors, cheered by thousands, and celebrated by Benito Mussolini's fascist regime as a powerful international ally. There was just one problem. He wasn't a chief, she wasn't a prince, and his real name wasn't even White Elk.
This is the story of one of the most audacious conmen in history, and how he used a costume and a fantastic story to fool an entire continent and a dictator. Our story begins in 1923.
A charismatic and exotic figure arrives in Europe. He calls himself Chief White Elk, tribal leader of the Iroquois nation. He claimed to be on a diplomatic mission, seeking justice for his people at the League of Nations. With his stunning ceremonial dress, one newspaper described as an energetic figure with accentuated and characteristic features, he was an instant sensation.
Europe, still healing from the First World War, was captivated by this noble figure from another world. But what no one knew was that this entire persona was born from a Hollywood marketing tour. His real name was Edgar Laplante. Born in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, to a French-Canadian father and a mother of indigenous descent, he spent his life drifting,
from vaudeville troops to selling snake oil medicine. His big break came when Paramount Pictures hired him to promote their new epic western, The Cold Wagon, across Europe. He was so good at playing the part of an Indian chief that, when the tour ended, he simply decided not to stop. He realized the costume was a key that could unlock a life of luxury and adoration.
And, in the fall of 1924, he decided to use the key to unlock the most ambitious door yet.
Mussolini's Italy.
To understand what happens next, you need to understand the Italy he walked into.
In 1924, brave socialist leader Giacomo Matteotti had stood up in parliament and publicly denounced the fascists for their election fraud and violence. Days later, he was kidnapped and brutally murdered. The crime was directly linked to Mussolini's inner circle, sparking a massive political and moral crisis that nearly brought down the entire regime.
The full chilling story of Matteotti affair is a political thriller that deserves its own deep dive, and we will be covering that in a future video. So, with his government desperate for any distraction, any sign of international legitimacy to wash away the stain of the scandal,
in walks Chief White Elk. For a fascist propaganda machine, he wasn't just a guest. He was a godsend. They presented him as a powerful, wealthy chief, owner of oil fields and vast ranches in Canada. His Italian tour was a masterclass in political propaganda. In Venice, the whole city celebrated him. In Ancona, he was met with full military honors. In Bari, a cruiser fired a cannon salute.
The peak of his audacity came when he demanded a meeting with Mussolini himself. A telegram was sent, quote,
Prince White Elk wishes to confer with Your Excellency. Stop. He's a benefactor of various Italian fascists. Stop. Sends fascist salutes.
While it's debated if the meeting ever actually happened, the rumor that he did was already enough.
He was now the Indian Comrade. He leaned into the role, fully embracing his new status. His dedication to the cause became a public spectacle. Local fascist chapters across Italy vied for his attention, showering him with honorary party memberships. He was photographed constantly, cementing his image not just as a sympathizer, but as one of them.
He had reached the absolute summit. He had fooled a nation, charmed the press, and became a living symbol for a regime. He was untouchable, or so he thought.
But on the glamorous French Riviera, his path crossed with two Austrian countesses, and this encounter would be the catalyst for his spectacular downfall. Away from the cheering crowds, on the sun-drenched coast of France, White Elk met the countesses Melanie and Antonia Kiefenhöller. Mother and daughter were completely enchanted by his stories of wealth and power. Convinced he was a rich prince who would soon pay them back, they began to bankroll his lavish lifestyle with huge sums of money. Laplante, however, saw the money not as a loan, but as tributes. He spent it freely on charity and luxury, further cementing his public image.
With their finances drained, the countess's admiration turned to suspicion. They started to investigate.
The cruel reality quickly surfaced. Chief White Elk was not a prince. He owned no oil fields. He was a master mystifier. Betrayed and broke, they filed a complaint for fraud. In December 1924, with the law closing in, Laplante, now suffering from syphilis, fled to a hospital in Switzerland, hoping to hide, but there was no escape. He was arrested.
During interrogations, the full story of Edgar Laplante finally emerged. The man behind the mask was revealed.
A psychiatric evaluation diagnosed him as a pathological liar with a histrionic personality.
His defense lawyer argued that his actions were not fraud, but rather a form of artistic performance, that he was an actor who never left the stage.
But the court didn't see it that way. He was found guilty and sentenced to over 5 years in prison.
The newspaper La Stampa wrote the perfect ironic epitaph for his con.
White Elk, plucked of its feathers in Lugano, has been definitively liquidated in Turin on the very day celebrating the discovery of America. He had come to discover America in Europe.
Edgar Laplante served 3 years before being released and deported back to the United States in 1929.
He briefly returned to the stage, but the magic was already gone. He died in obscurity in Phoenix, Arizona, in 1944.
A spectacular rise followed by a quite anonymous end, but his story, his incredible performance, didn't entirely disappear.
Today, the magnificent costume of Chief White Elk, the very one he used to dazzle Europe, is preserved and displayed here at the Cesare Lombroso Museum of Criminal Anthropology in Turin, Italy. It stands among the artifacts of criminals and madmen, a permanent memorial to a spectacular impostor.